Thank you for the invitation, having me here, and providing me the opportunity to interact with all of you. I must congratulate the Satesh group for coming out with ventilator inspired 2.0 and smart test lung. My friend and someone who has taken the leadership in this, Dr. Dev Pujari, and his team, our engineer friends, Mukund, Abhay, Tejas, Latesh, Justice Haki is here, Iqbal Ahmed is here, and all our Dr. Kevlia is here. And that is a problem with when you start mentioning the people by name, that you end up missing some. So please excuse me if I do it. And I have been told it will be there for half an hour, my presence, and half an hour is over now, so I can say it's goodbye. But then what I have learned over the last 2 decades is that no program ends before 1 hour. So I have kept roughly an hour for the function, because आपल्याकडे एक पद्धत आहे. सगळे म्हणतात, पर्टिक्युलरली मॅडम बसलेले तिथे म्हणतात की तुम्ही तुमचे विचार दोन मिनिटामध्ये मांडा, है ना. आणि इथे आल्यानंतर आम्ही 1 तास बोलतो, आणि 1 तास बोलल्यानंतर दॅन वी पुट से साल्ट ऑन द वुंड. अँड आम्ही बोलतो, माझे 2 शब्दाचा लांबलेला भाषण आता संपत. तो असा होणार नाही. आय अश्योर यू, आय विल जस्ट टेक 5 minutes of your time, 10 minutes at the max. Of course, it's a great initiative, and I'll try to put it in context that how important it is. The whole ventilator, the test lung will of course go through the certification process, and will probably, whichever organization is, probably I have been told ICMR, it will reach there, and then depending on their evaluation it will go further. So healthcare, I think, is an issue which all of us have been discussing for the last almost a year now, and not only the people in administration, doctors, but the general public as well. And we can say to a great extent, by and large, the threat is over. We do have roughly about 300-400 cases, COVID cases coming daily in Nagpur, but then number of deaths have definitely come down considerably, and we have hope in the form of vaccine. Probably in a month or so, or less than that, we'll start the vaccination process. What I gather from the information reports, that within the next 6 to 8 months, we intend to vaccinate roughly about 30 crore people in the country. That means roughly about 3 crore people in Maharashtra. Roughly we have 10% of the whole country, and so roughly about 3 crore to 2.5, 3 crore or more than that people will be vaccinated. Priority, of course, we know the healthcare workers and the frontline workers, and then people who are 50 plus. Roughly 60 plus, you have about 9% or 8% of the population, and another more than that would be 50 plus. So 50 plus healthcare workers, and then subsequently those who are less than 50 but comorbid. But beyond 50, that would be the main group, plus in the first stage, the healthcare workers, frontline workers. So we can say roughly about 2.5, 3 crore or 3.5, we will come to know subsequently. So we can say that within the next 6 to 8 months, or let's say at the most 1 year, the life will come to normal. But then what were the threats? The threats were in the month of March, April, May. all of us were worried, and with and the single most worrying factor was uncertainty. What is going to happen? How many will be infected? How many would become serious? How many will die? What kind of, for how long the lockdown will continue? So all these things worried us a lot. Uh, I'm, I have a feeling that probably the, I don't know, this someone will come out with the study subsequently. Uh, I think the mobile technology helped us, that we were in a position to communicate with each other during lockdown. Uh, and when you are able to communicate with each other, then I think it takes care of your stress to considerable extent. But anyway, so the only reference before us at that time was 1918 pandemic, and at that time 1918 50 crore people were infected. It continued for 2 years. It's almost 1 year is over. This will also continue probably for the almost same time, same number of months and years. So 50 crore people were infected worldwide, and that 50 crore population was 1/3 of the world population. Out of that 50 crore, 5 crore people died. 10% was the mortality. Out of that 5 crore, 1.5 crore died in, or 1.25 crore or 1.5 crore died in India. At that time, India, we had, I think, India, Pakistan, Bangladesh put together, population was roughly, I don't know exactly, but maybe around 25-30 crore. Out of that, 1.5 crore people died at that time. So, but this time, fortunately, we are saved. So I can pat your back. You people did, doctors did great work, and you can pat my back. Administration did great work. But my take is slightly different, and my take is that it's just because of our luck, our nature of disease, our nature of the virus, or whatever can be the factors. Particularly in South Asia, India, Bangladesh, Nepal. If you go to Thailand, Indonesia, most of the countries, by and large, escaped. And even in the West, I think it is not like 1918 pandemic. It's definitely a warning, and if it's a warning, and the experts, if you talk to experts, they say this is not going to be the last pandemic. You would have pandemics coming because of a variety of reasons. We have been encroaching upon our forests, coming in contact with wildlife, and the transmission of viruses has become easier. We don't know, but for how long it will take. But then the experts say that we are going to have the next pandemic, so we should prepare ourselves. So what is the preparation? And as they say, we should not waste a crisis. My worry, my fear is that we may waste the crisis. Six months down the line, after we are vaccinated, some of us are vaccinated, we will forget it. So many other issues will come, routine life, then other priorities, and this will be forgotten. So, because what are the challenges before us? The challenges before us in terms of, let's say, there are large number of learnings. I mean, the gap between rich and poor, the people in millions who walked on our roads, went to their villages, went to their states, the city infrastructure, the slums, the density, and so many other issues. But confining ourselves only to the health sector, what are the learnings? And what should we do to prepare ourselves? Are we equipped to prepare ourselves? So I'll just highlight some of those issues. There are no easy answers to that. For example, that who were the people who were more prone to severe COVID and subsequent deaths were the comorbid. People with hypertension, people with diabetes, people with chronic diseases. So they were the people who Okay, so people who are comorbid, that those who have diabetes, those who have hypertension, those who have chronic diseases, uh, they are the people who are prone to severe disease and then mortality as well. So how many hypertensive are there? How many people have high blood pressure? Let's say in Nagpur city. The data shows, and we are in the process of screening people, and it's almost exactly same in rural areas as well, villages as well. That roughly about 22%, 23% of the 40 plus age group are hypertensive. So how many are 40 plus age group of 40 plus? 39, 40%. So for in Nagpur, you can say, let's for calculation sake, we say 30 lakh. The city is maybe less, but then subsequent, there are urban areas beyond the city limits, you can say 30 lakh. So how many people have are 40 plus? 12 lakh. Out of that 12 lakh, 22% are roughly about 3 lakh people. So you can say for a population of 30 lakh, we have roughly about 3 lakh people who are hypertensive or who have high blood pressure. Who are those 3 lakh people? Does anybody know? No, we don't know. How many of them have ever tested their blood pressure? We don't know. How many of them got tested, identified, diagnosed, put on treatment? We don't know. How many of them regularly take treatment? We don't know. And how many of them, after regularly taking treatment, are able to maintain their blood pressure? We don't know. And to find out these 3 lakh people in a city like Nagpur, we will have to test the BP, blood pressure of how many people? 12 lakh people. At least once. And then these 3-4 lakh people would be repeatedly tested, because it's not going to end after testing. So do we have the manpower? No. At least in rural areas, we have sub-centers, primary health centers, and then some kind of manpower there. Of course, we have in urban areas, but highly insufficient. Is there a discussion going on, or someone has initiated a discussion, or you people have initiated a discussion? What kind of? I'm just giving hypertension, the diabetes, then the mental health, then the old age problems, then the psychiatric illnesses, then the your dental hygiene, your ophthalmological problems, issues. So we need huge manpower at the ground level, field level. Those who are foot soldiers move from house to house and screen people for these diseases. We don't have. And we are not discussing that we need the health information system as such. For example, we don't know who are these 3 lakh people having hypertension. Health information system is not health infrastructure, health funding. Because of course all these things can be done only if you have the funding. You test my blood pressure, you find out that I'm having hypertension. It has no meaning unless and until you give me some medicine and ask me to use it, follow up also. Subsequently, after 3 months, I again go there and get myself tested, and then whether I am under control or I have to change the medicine protocol or something as per the protocol. So these are the issues, and for that we need not only people at the cutting edge level, at the ward level, at the village level, but the clinicians that subsequently who are able to take care of these patients. But have you come across a single workshop organized by you, organized by someone else, that these are the challenges which we should focus on? So I think no. I think one controversial subject, I think, which you can agree or you can disagree, we are not going to argue, is the management and leadership within the health sector. I am a doctor, so I can have the liberty of saying I can't be removing appendices for for 30 years, and then I can become the leader, the manager, as a dean, as deputy director, or civil surgeon. And that's exactly what is happening in health sector. These things, handling people, managing people, looking at things in terms of availability of manpower, availability of medicines, the patient load, these are that kind of attitude requires working in that sector for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years. It doesn't come automatically. So what kind of leadership management system we should put in health sector, both in rural as well as in urban areas, so that we expected crisis would happen, things would become chaotic, or there will be huge pressure. To that extent, the pressure was definitely not there. If we look at our the number of patients, the critical patients, it was not a 1918 crisis, but still most of our institutions, the hospitals, people in the health sector became very nervous, uncomfortable. How to do it? So do we have so how to have a system where we have the management, the leadership capacities within the health sector, so that problem is that it's a complex sector. As I told you, one is the hypertension, diabetes, and hundreds of other things, and these problems are everywhere, in every village, in every block, in every tahsil, in every district. And if you have to sort out these problems, then you require huge effort, 10 times, 50 times more than what a tahsildar or BDO is doing. So we have not been doing, so we don't know the challenge. If we start doing it, let's say for example, a block in Maharashtra or tahsil in Maharashtra roughly has about 2 lakh, 3 lakh people. If you go to in Western Maharashtra, there would be about 3 lakh, or here about 1.5, 2 lakh. So out of 2 lakh people, so roughly 10%, 20,000 people in every block are having hypertension. To identify those 20,000 people, you will have to test the blood pressure of 40,000 people, or let's say 40% of the 2 lakh, 80,000 people. Are we doing it? Going to each, and mind you, this is not correct, that these problems exist only in cities. These are lifestyle diseases. I think lifestyles have changed in villages also. Lifestyles change because once you have so how many villages you have where you don't have a motorcycle, you don't have a car, people walk to go to taluka place? Not many. The lifestyle changes because of that. The lifestyle has already changed in villages as well. As cities, of course, it is there. So the management, the leadership within the health sector, and what kind of role private sector should play, government should play. How can you build synergy where automatically the private sector fits in case of a crisis, in case of a pandemic, in case of for delivering the public services or the healthcare services. The problem with healthcare is that it's a unique sector. If you have to send your daughter, your son to a school, you already know which school is the best, which teacher is good, which teacher gives you the best inputs. If to buy shirt, you know it, you go by the brand. This is a sector which is deeply characterized by the information asymmetry. I don't know anything if I go to a doctor. Doctor knows everything. There is a huge imbalance. I would request Dr. Keulia is there. वो यहाँ पे बैठे थे ना, तो or some of you, please have a look and compare GMC, IGMC, the public institution, the private institutions, the number of patients treated, number of patients COVID patients treated, number of deaths there, number of deaths here, and the use of remdesivir in public hospitals and in the private hospitals. And then further analyze that whether it was used as a with the agenda to save lives only or with the agenda something else in mind. And you compare it, I think डॉक्टर थोड़ा करके देखना, थोड़ा सा करुण बगा है. And those people who used, please sit with them. I can understand it is 2 times, 3 times, or 1.5 times difference is there, but then because this sector is deeply, deeply characterized by information asymmetry. And we think next to God is doctor. People think, or you people think in terms of because it's kind enough or good enough, but I think it is because of the information asymmetry. When I go to a temple, I know nothing, God knows everything. After that, when I go to hospital, I know nothing, doctor knows everything. He knows slightly less than the God. That's why after God. So these are the challenges. I think we should debate, discuss what kind of systems we need to put in place. Of course, there will be great people, good people, bad people, and that cannot be the mainstay while formulating a policy or putting in place a system. If you go to West and you go to travel by bus, they never check your ticket because they trust you, because they think you are good, we are good. But they don't rely on that only. They have a system to catch you, and the day they will catch you, they will find you 100 times. And sooner they catch you than later. So what kind of systems we need to put in place? So should we have the private healthcare system? Should we have the government? What kind of role the private healthcare system can play? It has a huge role as of now. Without the private sector, without the private hospitals in Nagpur, we would have been in huge crisis during COVID itself. To say that we should not have the private sector, we should have only government, I don't think that we can do in the next 10 years, 20 years. Maybe after 30, 40, 50 years, I don't know. But then, I mean, today, if you get the news that Indigo has stopped functioning, will you feel bad? Definitely. Because most of us travel by Indigo, low-cost airline. 30 years back, if someone had told you Air India or Indian Airlines has stopped functioning, so at that time, would you have paid some attention? No, because your salary was 10,000, ticket was 15,000. Or your salary was 20,000, ticket was 10,000. Most of us did not travel by Air India or Indian Airlines at that time. That is exactly the system in the private healthcare system. It's like the old Indian Airlines model. By the rich, of the rich, for the rich. Where only probably not more than 5% people can go to private hospitals. 1 in 4 I think in urban areas, and 1 in 4 in rural areas, or 1 in 5 in urban areas in Maharashtra. When they go to a hospital, get admitted, they borrow money. It's almost 70% or 65% of the money is out of the pocket expenditure by people in Maharashtra. There is a reality. 84% of the people who go for the OPD in Maharashtra, they go to the private sector, not to the government. So this is your reliance on the private sector. Because of whatever reason, private is good or whatever, or government is not there. You go there, when you get admitted, you borrow money. So to make a meaningful difference, I think we need to have what can be called the, the low-cost airline model. How to do it, I don't know. I have no answers. My point is that I would not mind if you don't treat me here, you treat me 30 kilometers away in some periphery and cost or charge me 1/3 or 1/2 of the whole money. I don't know what can be the model. But then to gain importance, become meaningful contributor in solving the problem, the private sector should be in a position where at least it will not be possible for 100% of the people, 50% of the people, or 70% of the people. At least 25–30% of the people should be in a position to afford that, which is not the case now. And that's in that context, I think this is the initiative, where ventilator which costs 15 lakh rupees or 16 lakh rupees, you have 1 lakh rupees, or he says I maybe about 2 lakh rupees. So how can we have these models or systems put in place where we can make the treatment available to at least 30% of the people who can pay and get the treatment. So that in that and that's why I have come. That had he come to me that this is a great ventilator and it costs you 50 lakh rupees, I would not have come. So in that context, this initiative is important. That how can we? I mean, these are the difficult challenges, and this is the issue. I think Dr. Devi Shetty keeps mentioning again and again and again and again, that ours is a different country, different problem, different challenges, and we need to have different solutions. So how to do it? There are no easy answers, no simple answers. There are. I mean, I don't know. So how many deliveries happen in a population of 1 lakh? Roughly about 1600, 1700 at this time. How many would happen in a population of 2 lakh? Roughly about, you can say 3000, let's say for calculation's sake. 3000 in a year, in a block. How many would happen daily? 3000 divided by 365 or whatever, you can say roughly about, let's say 10. And how many should have the cesarean sections? 15% or 20%, whatever the number is, means roughly about 1 or 2 cesarean sections. That is the market available in one block. And if you have 4 gynecologists, udhar building bana di, usne bhi kar diya, aapne bhi kar diya, then you are bound to wait for the patient, and when the patient comes, then you think it's the only opportunity to make money. I think that's also what is happening in the healthcare sector. How to solve the problem? These are the huge challenges. So I think, but then they say every crisis is an opportunity, and that window of opportunity is available for next 6 months, next 1 year, when we should sit, we should discuss what would be the role of the private sector, what would be the role of the government in case of crisis, how can they come together, build synergy, where we, instead of managing the healthcare, we keep discussing, कम पैसे दे रहे हो, ज़्यादा पैसे दे रहे हो, ये करो, वो करो, number of beds जो है 80-20 नहीं रखो, 40 रखो, 50 रखो, 60 रखो, and then how much I should charge, how much I should not charge. These are the issues I think we need to put in place systems. How can we make the healthcare sector, particularly the private sector, low cost, available to people, at least 30% people, so that we start gaining importance or acceptability as the low cost airlines are. And how can we further strengthen the government in terms of availability of manpower, in terms of infrastructure, in terms of health information system, the management, the leadership within the health sector. Of course, there's one important variable, is the funding. But then I think we should not reduce it to funding only. आप मुझे बोलते हो क्या था, funding नहीं होती healthcare sector में. Funding of course is important, it must improve and it will improve, but then these are the debates, these are discussions we should have, and if we discuss, debate and come out with some meaningful solutions, put in place those systems, then I think we'll be doing justice to the learning from COVID and preparing ourselves to something which we can call the next pandemic, or even if we don't have a pandemic. I mean, testing blood pressure of 12 lakh people, identifying 3 lakh people, and identifying about 70,000 diabetic. We don't, whether pandemic or no pandemic, we have to do it. We should do it. Because otherwise these people end up in hospital because of heart attacks, because of kidney problems, because of these problems, that problems. So pandemic or no pandemic, we must put in place these systems and improve. And who can do it? You can do it. I don't understand. Common person doesn't understand these things. The doctors community, the people within the health sector, you understand these are the challenges, and that's why it is important to organize these kinds of discussions, debates, where not only the doctors, but the people in the bureaucracy, people in the political systems, elected representatives, right from village level, Zilla Parishad, Amdars, Khasdars, leaders, we call them, discuss with them, sensitize them. Okay, these are the issues we need to take decision on. So hopefully, I think things will improve, but then these are my my thoughts, and I thought I must share these thoughts with you. Thank you for having me here, providing me the opportunity to. So this is an indication that you should shut up now. So, so I am. So of course it's a half an hour is over already. It's like माझा 2 मिनिटाच्या लांबलेल्या भाषेने थांबतो आता. थँक्यू, धन्यवाद.